coffee machine hummed a low, steady tune. It was an old one. Frank bought it for me almost 15 years ago. A Christmas gift. Always reliable. Always just right. I watched the dark liquid drip into the carafe. Steam curled. The scent of French roast filled the kitchen. A Saturday morning ritual. For decades, I used to make enough for 3, sometimes 4. Frank, me, Sarah and Michael, when they were home from college, or later, when they brought their own families over for breakfast. Those mornings were loud, full of laughter, the smell of bacon, pancakes I'd flip, syrup warming on the stove, kids chasing each other through the living room, their little feet thudding above me now. In memory, only in memory. Now it's just me, just one cup. I poured it black, sat at the kitchen island, the same island where Sarah once finger-painted, where Michael did his homework, where Frank would read the newspaper. Spread out, a whole section. The sports, the business. Now my iPad sits there, slim, silent, only showing yesterday's news. I don't subscribe to the physical paper anymore. No one else here to read it. It's been almost 3 years since everything went quiet, since the phone stopped ringing, since the visits ceased. It feels like a different lifetime. A different woman lived in this house then. A different woman looked out this window. A different woman believed in happy endings. I remember when Sarah was born, a summer baby, small, delicate, her tiny hand wrapped around my finger. Frank crying in the hospital room. He was never a crier, but he cried that day. Our first, our girl. We named her Sarah. A strong name, a beautiful name. We had dreams for her, all the dreams. A white picket fence, a loving husband, kids of her own. We wanted her to have everything, everything we had, and more. We worked hard. Frank was a mechanic, ran his own shop, honest work, long hours. I was a nurse, night shifts mostly, so one of us was always home, always there. We saved, we put money away for their college, for their weddings. We wanted them to start their lives without debt, without struggle, like we struggled. We wanted to smooth the path for them. That's what parents do, right? Michael came 4 years later. A boy, wild, full of energy, broke a window with a baseball at 8, scraped his knee playing football at 10, always laughing, always pulling pranks. He was easier in some ways, less emotional, more straightforward. Sarah was complex. She felt things deeply, or so I thought. We bought this house when Sarah was 12, a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, on a tree-lined street, good schools, a big backyard. We hosted every holiday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter. This house was alive, filled with family, cousins, aunts, uncles. Everyone piled in. The smell of turkey, pine needles, chocolate. It was the center, our center, my center. Frank and I, we had our moments. Every marriage does. 40 years. You see things. You learn things. You forgive things. We had a pact. Always talk it out. Never go to bed angry. He was a good man. Solid. Dependable. He loved his kids. More than anything. He loved me too. I thought. Sarah grew into a stunning young woman. Smart. Articulate. She went to state. Got her degree in communications. She had a sparkle. A way of charming people. She met Mark there. Mark Peterson. He was handsome. Tall. Dark hair. A quick smile. From a good family. Or so they said. I remember the day Sarah brought him home for Sunday dinner. He ate 2 plates of my lasagna. Called me Mrs. Walker. Said all the right things. Frank liked him. Michael gave him the typical brotherly 3rd degree. But he passed. Mark was going to be an engineer. He had plans. Ambition. We were happy for Sarah. So happy. When they announced their engagement, my heart swelled. A beautiful ring. A perfect proposal story. Frank and I immediately offered to pay for the wedding. It was our dream, to give our daughter a perfect day. We had saved for it. For years, I'd started a special account for it when she was in high school. I wanted it all. The big church, the elegant reception, the flowers, the band, the photographer, everything. Mark's parents were nice enough, a little reserved. Old money, or new money trying to look old. They offered to contribute, but Frank and I insisted. This was for Sarah, our gift, our legacy. We said we had it covered. Every last cent. We wanted her to feel like a princess. On her day, the wedding, it was breathtaking. June, warm sunshine. The church was overflowing. Sarah walked down the aisle, in a white gown, lace, my grandmother's pearls. She looked radiant. Mark waited for her, a tear in his eye. It felt like a movie, a perfect dream. $50,000, maybe a little more. Every penny worth it, to see her smile, to see her happy, to know she was starting her life right. After the wedding, Things changed, slowly, imperceptibly at first. Sarah and Mark moved into a beautiful new build, not too far from us, but far enough. They were busy, setting up their home, starting their careers. That's natural, I told myself. Young couples need their space. The phone calls became less frequent. My calls to her, mostly, she'd say she was busy. With work, with Mark, with friends. I understood. I really did. I kept telling myself, she's an adult. She has her own life. Then came the first request, a loan. For a new car. Mark's old one broke down. A down payment, $12,000. They'd pay us back. Of course, Frank didn't hesitate. Our kids, you help your kids. I agreed. We had the money. Still, it felt different. Not a gift, a loan. Then another. Their roof needed replacing. Unexpected expense, $8,000. Another loan. They promised. Frank wrote the check. Always. He always wrote the check. I started to notice little things. Mark would sometimes cut me off in conversation. Not overtly rude, just dismissive. Sarah would sometimes laugh along. A quick glance, a shared look with Mark. A look I didn't understand. Like they had a secret language. A private joke. At my expense. Maybe. I pushed the thought away. My daughter. My sweet Sarah. She would never. Our first grandchild. Lily. A girl. My heart melted all over again. I offered to babysit. Every week. Tuesdays and Thursdays. So Sarah could go back to work. Half-time. She was so grateful. She said, "Thank you, Mom. You're a lifesaver." It started with 2 days a week. Then 3. Then sometimes 4. If Mark had a meeting. Or Sarah needed to run errands. They'd drop Lily off early. Pick her up late. Sometimes I'd have her overnight. The calls would come. "Can you take Lily tonight, Mom? We have an event. An important one." I loved Lily. She was my sunshine. Her giggles, her small hand in mine. We'd bake cookies, read books, play in the backyard. I didn't mind. Not really. It was family. It was love. It was what grandmothers did. But the tiredness, it started to creep in. My back ached. My knees protested. I was no longer a young woman. I was in my late 60s. Frank was nearing 70. He was starting to slow down too. He'd come home from the shop. Exhausted. He'd see me. Collapsed on the couch. Lily, finally asleep in her crib upstairs. He'd just nod. Take my hand. Never complained. The requests for money kept coming. Not big sums anymore. Smaller. A few thousand here. A few hundred there. For Lily's private preschool. For Mark's new business venture. For a family vacation they couldn't quite afford. It was always a necessity. Always an emergency. Always a loan. That was never repaid. Frank started looking a little worn. His hair was thinning. His shoulders slumped more. I'd catch him staring at the ceiling at night. Wide awake. "What's wrong?" I'd ask. Nothing, he'd say. Just thinking. One day, my sister Carol called. She lives out of state. We used to talk every Sunday. She'd always ask about Sarah and Michael. About the grandkids. She told me she ran into the Petersons, Mark's parents, at a resort. They were talking about Sarah and Mark. How well they were doing. How they just bought a vacation home. On the lake. A vacation home. My stomach dropped. They couldn't afford that. Not with all their loans from us. Not with a private preschool. I tried to dismiss it. Maybe it was a small cabin. Maybe a shared place. Then Carol said something else. They mentioned how generous Frank and I had been with the wedding. But then added how they, the Petersons, had paid for the honeymoon. A lavish trip to Italy. And that they had gifted them the down payment for their first house. The new build. My head spun. That wasn't right. We were under the impression they bought their house with our help. And their own savings, not with a large gift from the Petersons. Why would they lie? Why would Sarah let us believe that? I brought it up to Frank that night, quietly, while we were doing dishes. He paused. He looked at me. His face was unreadable. "Maybe they just meant a small portion," he said. "Don't overthink it. People exaggerate." He dried a plate, placed it carefully in the cupboard, but I saw something in his eyes. A flicker of something. I couldn't quite name it. Doubt, or worse, knowledge. The cracks were starting to show. Not hairline cracks, but deep fissures. In my trust, in my understanding of my own family. One afternoon, I was at Sarah and Mark's house, babysitting Lily. Like always, Sarah was upstairs, on the phone. Her voice was low, urgent. She was talking about money. She said, "No, Mom and Dad can't know. Not yet. We need a bit more first." It was quick, a hushed tone. Then she hung up, came downstairs, her face composed, bright. "Just fine, Mom. Everything's fine." I felt a cold shiver. Mom and Dad. Who was she talking about? Her real parents? Or Mark's? or us. The ambiguity gnawed at me. Later that week, I needed some documents for my taxes. Frank kept all our important papers in his home office, in a locked filing cabinet. He was out golfing. He'd given me a spare key once, years ago, just in case. I found it in an old jewelry box, dusty, untouched. I opened the cabinet, started searching for our tax forms. As I was sifting through the folders, my hand brushed against a separate, smaller file, labeled Sarah, Personal. My heart pounded. It felt wrong to look, but the unease, the growing dread, it overcame my hesitation. I opened it. Inside were bank statements, mine and Frank's, but not just ours. Copies of our statements from years ago, and a stack of loan agreements, typed up, signed by Sarah and Mark for every single sum we had given them. The car, the roof, the smaller amounts, and then a much larger one, a deed for this house, our house. It was a reverse mortgage, taken out 5 years ago, for a substantial sum, and the beneficiaries, Sarah and Mark. My breath hitched. I couldn't move. The paper shook in my hands. A reverse mortgage. Frank, he never mentioned this. We never talked about it. We had our savings, our pensions. We didn't need a reverse mortgage. My eyes scanned the document again. The signatures, Frank's, a copy, but it looked so real. And mine. Mine was there too, but it wasn't my handwriting. It was a forgery, a clumsy one, but enough. The date, 5 years ago, a few months after Lily was born, a few months before the constant stream of loans began. It all clicked into place. The vacation home, the financial requests, the hushed phone calls, the Petersons' generosity with the down payment for Sarah's house. Because Sarah and Mark were already planning to take ours, I felt a scream trapped in my throat. My vision blurred. The room spun, the familiar walls, the photos on the desk, my grandkids smiling, my wedding photo, Frank's strong arm around me. It all felt like a lie, a cruel, elaborate trick. I closed the folder, locked the cabinet, put the key back. My hands were shaking so violently, I could barely do it. I walked to the kitchen. My legs felt like lead. I poured myself a glass of water. It sloshed over the rim. I drank it in gulps. My mouth was dry, my heart a drum in my chest. Frank came home an hour later, whistling, his usual post-golf cheer. "Hey, honey, how was your day?" He walked past me, into the office. I heard the cabinet drawer open, then close. I heard him sit at his desk. A moment of silence, then he came back out. His face was blank, too blank. We sat down for dinner, the lasagna I made, my special recipe. He ate in silence. I pushed the food around my plate, my appetite gone, my world gone. Finally I spoke. My voice was a whisper. "Frank," I said, "there's something we need to talk about." He looked at me. His eyes, they weren't Frank's eyes anymore. They were cold, distant. He knew I knew. He sighed, a long, weary sound. "What about Helen?" he asked, his voice flat, emotionless. Helen was my sister, my older sister. She passed away last year. A sudden heart attack. It devastated me. We were so close. He always liked Helen. "What about Helen?" I asked, my confusion mixing with the fear. He reached across the table, took my hand. His touch felt foreign, unfamiliar. He squeezed it, a little too hard. He said, "Helen needed money, a lot of money, for her medical treatments, her debts, before she died. She didn't want you to worry. So I helped her. We took out that reverse mortgage to help her, and the kids knew. They helped me keep it quiet. We were going to pay it back, before you ever found out." My mind reeled. Helen, my sister, in debt, in secret, and Frank, taking out a reverse mortgage, forging my signature, with the kids' help, to protect me from worry. It was too much, too many lies, too many secrets. He kept talking, saying it was for the best, to spare me the pain. He said the kids were worried about us, about our future. They just wanted to make sure we were taken care of. He said Mark and Sarah were going to manage our finances, make sure everything was stable. After all we'd done for them, it was their turn to take care of us. My husband of 40 years, my children, my sister, all of them, in on this, behind my back. For years, I pulled my hand away. The words were choked. "You forged my name. Frank, you lied to me. My own children, they knew." His face hardened. "Don't be dramatic, Elizabeth," he said. "It was for your own good. We were just trying to protect you. You worry too much." Protect me. From what? The truth. From my own agency, my own decisions, my own house, my own money. I couldn't eat another bite. I stood up, walked to the living room, sat on the couch where we'd watched countless movies, where we'd cuddled, where we'd raised our children. It felt alien now. The next morning, I tried to call Sarah. Her phone went straight to voicemail. I called Michael. Same thing. I tried Mark. He didn't answer. It was a Sunday, the day we usually had brunch, the day they were supposed to come over. I waited and waited. The house was too quiet. The phone never rang. I drove to Sarah and Mark's house. Their car was in the driveway. Their lights were on. I rang the doorbell. Once, twice, nothing. I could hear Lily's laughter from inside, and Mark's voice, and Sarah's. I knocked harder. Still no answer. I stood there, on their perfect porch, my heart shattering with every sound I heard from inside. Sounds of a family. That wasn't mine anymore. I finally left, tears streaming down my face. I drove to a park, sat on a bench, under a willow tree, the leaves swaying. The world moved on around me. Joggers, dog walkers, young families with children, laughing, holding hands. My world had stopped. It had broken into a million pieces. I went to a lawyer the next day, a kind woman named MS. Evans. She listened patiently, her face grim as I showed her the documents I'd copied. The reverse mortgage, the forged signature, the loan agreements. She told me it was serious, very serious. Fraud, elder abuse. She said we had a case, a strong one, against Frank, and potentially against Sarah and Mark, my own children. The thought made me physically ill, taking my own kids to court, the kids I raised, the kids I loved. But what choice did I have? They were stealing my future, my home, my dignity. I confronted Frank again, told him I knew everything, about Helen, about the forgery, about the reverse mortgage, about Sarah and Mark being involved. He broke, not with tears, but with anger. He said, "What did you expect me to do? Your sister was dying. She begged me. I couldn't tell you. You would have panicked. And the kids, they just wanted to help, to make sure you were secure. They planned to buy back the house eventually, or let us live here until we died. You just never understood money." He said, "You were always too emotional, too soft." His words cut deeper than any knife. Too emotional, too soft. After 40 years, this was his assessment of me. Then he told me he had been seeing someone for the last 5 years, a woman from his golf club. He said she understood him. She appreciated him. She wasn't always worried about the kids, or money, or everything else. He said he was tired of pretending, tired of being the good husband, tired of me. My head swam. 5 years, the same 5 years, since Lily was born, since the reverse mortgage, since the lies began. It all intertwined, a tangled knot of betrayal. My husband, my best friend, my rock, a stranger, an adulterer, a thief. All along, the divorce was brutal, not because I wanted anything from him, just out of principle, and to protect myself, to protect what little I had left. The house was tied up in the reverse mortgage. Sarah and Mark were the beneficiaries. It was a mess. The lawyer explained, because my signature was forged, there was a legal pathway, but it meant proving Frank committed fraud, and that Sarah and Mark knowingly benefited. It meant tearing my family apart in public. In court, I tried to talk to Sarah one last time. I called her. She finally answered. Her voice was cold, hard. "Mom," she said, "what do you want? You're making a huge mistake. Dad told us everything. You're just being difficult." I told her, "I know about the reverse mortgage. I know about the forged signature. I know about you and Mark being the beneficiaries. I know about your father's affair." There was a silence on the line, a long, heavy silence. Then she spoke, her voice dripping with contempt. She said, "It's for the best, Mom. Really, you were getting old. You weren't managing things. And Mark, he really loves me. He saw how much I gave up, how much I sacrificed for you. And Dad, he said you deserved better than us. He really did. He said you deserved a stable life, a secure future, and we were going to give it to you. You just didn't trust us." My breath hitched. My ears were ringing. He said you deserved better than us. Not just better than me, better than us. Mark, my son-in-law, the man I welcomed into our family, the man whose wedding I paid $50,000 for. He said Sarah, my own daughter, deserved better than me. It was like a physical blow, a punch to the gut. The words echoed in my head, over and over. He said she deserved better than you. He said she deserved better than you. I hung up. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. My daughter, my sweet Sarah, she was listening. She was complicit. She believed it. The court hearings were humiliating. Public, my own children, testifying against me. Frank, looking like a victim, blaming me for everything. My supposed inability to manage finances, my emotional instability. His affair, he claimed it was because I had neglected him, too focused on the kids, too focused on my sister. I sat there, day after day, listening to their lies, listening to the destruction of my life, my reputation, my sanity, my heart a hollow shell. The judge ruled in my favor. Partially, the forged signature meant the reverse mortgage was invalid. The house was mine, for now, but the legal fees, they were enormous, and the loans to Sarah and Mark, they were deemed gifts, given without explicit expectation of repayment. My lawyer said it was nearly impossible to prove otherwise without formal loan documents, which Frank had conveniently misplaced after our separation. The few I found in the cabinet were ruled insufficient to prove a consistent pattern of repayment expectation. They were my children. I hadn't wanted formal contracts. I had trusted them. I kept the house, but at tremendous cost. Financially, emotionally, my savings were depleted. What I had left barely covered the bills. Frank moved in with his new woman, Helen, not my sister, another Helen, a younger woman. I heard from an old neighbor. Michael moved our state. He rarely calls. He sends a text on my birthday. Nothing more. Sarah and Mark, I haven't seen them. Not since the last court date. Not since that phone call. Lily, my beautiful granddaughter, I haven't seen her. Not once. My house, it feels empty now. Too big, too quiet. I wander the rooms. The kitchen, the living room, the bedrooms that used to be full of life, full of love. Now they are just spaces, echoing. I sit on the couch, sometimes for hours, just staring at the wall. The pictures are still up. Of Frank, of Sarah, of Michael, of Lily, smiling, happy, a family. I look at them, and I feel nothing. Sometimes, other times, I feel a pain so sharp, so deep, it takes my breath away. I go to the grocery store. I see old friends. They ask, how are the kids? How are the grandkids? I smile, a tight, brittle smile. I say, they are fine, busy, growing up. I don't tell them the truth. I can't. The shame, the humiliation. It's too heavy. I drink my coffee black now, every morning. Just one cup. The machine still hums, a low, steady tune. Like my life, still humming, still existing, but without the music, without the laughter, without the love. Sometimes I think, was it my fault? Was I too giving, too trusting, too soft? Like Frank said, did I make them like this? Did I raise them to be so cruel, so selfish, so heartless? I don't know. I just don't know anymore. The sun rises every day. The birds sing. The world keeps turning. But my world, it stopped. That day, Mark said she deserved better than you, and Sarah believed him. It's just me now, alone, in this house, this big, quiet house, that I almost lost, to my own flesh and blood. And the silence, it's louder than anything.